politics is very difficult business. Very, you must know since you're with JP.
Arunaji, I know that we have to finish at some point. So
yeah, 5 minutes left.
So 5 minutes left.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I was thinking if I can get the chance to ask you a question. So I want to bring up the topic of minorities. You mentioned very astutely about the problems of corruption is because of inequality. It's a question of ethics, and when states like Assam or Manipur joined the Indian Union, it used to be quite different. The ethics were different. For example, we had people like Lal Singh who would build 3 houses instead of 2 for the given kind of budget. And now you see that money has infiltrated the states to the point where I can say very frankly that Manipur is the most corrupted state in India today. And we have so many human rights violations, so many problems, which seems almost bizarre if you look at it from outside. My question to you is yes, we cannot, we have to sort of start from the base of the pyramid. For example, your movement, for example, is very powerful, and we do a case study of your movement, and we realize that while we are trying to change institutional laws at the top, we are also trying to build capacity at the bottom, people demanding that right to information. And I believe that, similar kind of movement or similar kind of capacity building is required in peripheral states or minority groups like in Manipur. And we have social activists like Irom Sharmila, who has been on a fast for 11, 12 years. And it has been very ineffective. I wonder what is your insight into this, because it's kind of like a very complicated, sort of problem, but maybe you can, help us understand a little bit, from your perspective.
I think that in the case of Kashmir, in the case of Manipur, and in the case of the Northeast, I would really say that the primary battle today is to get rid of this Armed Forces Special Powers Act, because it has completely taken away your fundamental rights.
Right.
And I can't see other battles as important as the Special Powers Act. But I went to Manipur. By the way, I was there for a week.
Really?
In November. Well, I felt so many things there. Primarily that India is, well, I'm speaking of India as sitting in Manipur, it's awful. So you have to question the Indian state for the atrocities it's committing in Manipur. And it is committing atrocities. I don't know if you've seen that extremely powerful film made by the women who protested against the rape by the armed forces there. Women stripped themselves naked and went and stood in a line in front of the army and said, if you have to rape us, just rape us. They're there. I can't think of a more powerful protest and a more courageous protest. For a woman to just go and stand there in that condition must have required, I salute them, and I think it was terribly Gandhian for me, what they did. And Gandhi lived again in that protest. So I really think that if you ever join the IAS and you go to Manipur...
No, I'm not joining IAS.
Okay. Well, then in which case, Manipur and the issue of Manipur needs tremendous amount of lobbying. And it's going to be a full-time lobbying campaign, because you can't do anything else. And I think I met about 20 gun widows, young women. I'm a tough person, I don't generally cry in public. But that day, I had tears in my eyes. Because these young women, whose husbands have been killed in false encounters, and so good looking, so gentle, and so compassionate. Actually, if they'd been angry, I wouldn't have been so moved as their compassion. They did not complain. All they said was that they wanted some amount of state support for their children, for themselves. And because their husbands were killed in so-called encounters, The whole family is declared insurgent. They don't get any welfare. They don't get anything. I felt terrible. I still feel terrible. Okay. So, but they said they had used RTI. And I felt, oh God, if it has been of use to you, no matter nowhere that is used, if you have used it, I'm glad. You know, they've used RTI to access money for their children, some small compensations, some small pieces of land in a state like Manipur. So I think we have to use these small tools. The larger battle just has to be fought. Whether it's Kashmir or whether it's Manipur, we just can't have the system. And how can India call itself a democracy if it has these systems going? Sitting there, India is terrible. It's okay when you come and sit in another state, you see a different India. And the newspapers don't care for you. The media doesn't care for you. What happens doesn't get reported. So for the Northeast, my heart burns. And I really feel that it's an issue which India just has to address. If it wants them as equal partners, just as much as I want Lal Singh as my equal, I have to listen to him. If India wants every state to be part of it, it has to listen to the genuine problems of people. And many of my friends say, we are not insurgents. We don't even want to free Manipur from India, but for heaven's sake, give us justice. From corruption.
Absolutely.
From issues. The moment anyone says anything in Manipur, they are damned.